Welcome, everybody. My name is Kenneth, and I have my guest with me, Greg. I've learned a lot from him just from our sales training, actually, with CWC. So I'm so stoked to have him on here as a guest. Greg, go ahead, introduce yourself. What business are you in? How long have you been doing it? Where are you from?
Thanks very much. My name is Gregg Blanchard. I'm the Allstate agency owner. I'm actually located in Palm Beach, Florida. I've been a captive agent for going on 17 years on November the 1st. And I started scratch actually with 0 customers. And I opened the door to the insurance world back in 2007.
Okay, well, good deal. So started scratch. Have you ever bought a book of business before, or has everything just been straight up organic?
Yeah, so we grew to about $12 million in premium organically, probably by year 8. And then we made some acquisitions. We actually acquired 3 agencies along the way, just because it's easier to scale through acquisition than it is to try to grow organically. So we saw that as an accelerator. We got a great opportunity to be able to increase our footprint. And now we're right around $42 million in premium.
There you go. Oh my gosh, $42 million in premium. That's incredible. Are you passing Craig now? As like back when he did own his agency, are you passing him now?
I know you never told me.
He probably wants to keep that a secret.
No, we probably have more premium just because our premiums are much higher in Florida due to the nature of our business. But world-class operation with Craig. He's a really, really good friend of mine. He had a really big book.
Good deal. So now this is a question that I don't have on here. When I say the growth factor, what does that mean to you? And follow-up question, what has been your biggest growth factor from you going from you started scratch, now you're at $42 million?
Yeah, I think growth factor, as soon as I hear, that statement, it's basically being better than you were yesterday. I mean, we compare ourselves to the man in the mirror. And as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of great agency owners out there, and we never compare ourselves to anybody, right? I mean, I know that leaderboard statistics and goals and things like that are important, but our marketplace is so segmented geographically that you could have an office down the street from me that could have a completely different makeup of customers and challenges that are out there. So growth to me just basically means, being better than you were the person, the day before.
I love that. Like Joseph Evers always says, 1% better every single day. 1% better.
Yeah. You got the Josephitis too, huh?
Yeah, right. Right.
Amazing stuff for CWC. He's a great mentor and coach.
100%. And I do want to meet Joseph one day and possibly have him on here as well, because I'm the agency manager of this agency here. And it would just be awesome to learn from him, pick his mind, see what things I can implement here to help positively impact the business here. So I think it'd be awesome to have him on as a guest as well down the road.
Well, I know a guy.
You probably do. Can you share some key strategies and tactics that you've employed to scale your business?
Yeah, I think at the core foundation, it's the team, right? I think everything, is based on the foundational, group that you actually bring together to be able to focus on, your strategic initiatives, your goals, and bring on people that are like-minded, that understand where you're going, how you're going to get there, and be very clear with the expectations. So I think the foundational work of putting the right people on the bus, right, is the most important thing in building a really successful agency. Because the old saying is, you can go fast alone, but you can, really go further in a team.
Correct. And how did you, so when did you realize that you needed to hire people? And at what premium were you at when you were like, hey, like I need to have customer service. Hey, I have to have 2 other salespeople so that way I can triple, quadruple the revenue coming in next year. At what point did you realize that you had to hire more people?
Yeah, sure. My story is probably like a lot of entrepreneurs out there. I came from a very, humble beginning. Like I said, I started with 0 customers. My first day, that I was open, somebody walked in and asked me for an HO6 policy that was rented. So, I mean, could you imagine getting that in Florida when we didn't have, our captive agencies policies on that paper. So, I actually worked in the business for the first 10 months by myself. I had all my calls forwarded to my cell phone. I definitely wouldn't, I wouldn't allow anybody to go ahead or recommend anybody to start your business that way. But at the time, every single penny I had was going into the business. And I believe that marketing was the key. And for the first 10 months, it was a really, really rough go. There's a lot of people out there that saw me as competition and didn't want to help, but I have always been in sales. I've carried, sales bag my entire life. So my background is very, very diverse in all aspects of, corporate sales, large, C-level sales to corporations, smaller businesses. So I knew I had the ability to sell and find referral business. But I think after 10 months, I was like, all right, doing mortgagee clause changes, making sales. In my 10th month, I actually hired my first office manager that came aboard with us, and she knew more about insurance than I did. I could sell, but I knew nothing about unfortunately, the insurance business at that time. I made a lot of mistakes. I failed forward really quickly, but I can tell you that I learned really, really quickly from my mistakes, and I've never made the same mistake, twice. So I'd say at 10 months, I got my first office manager. A month after that, we had I saw another service individual because I had written a lot of business by myself. I just couldn't keep up with the volume of calls. And then in month 3, actually probably the 13th month or the year and a half, I'm sorry, 1 year and 1 month into the business is when we brought on our first pure salesperson. We didn't have hybrid. We've always separated sales and service in our agency, and that's how we specialized.
Okay. Now, have you always been with Craig Wiggins coaching as far as sales training, or did you learn about him halfway through your journey? Or
yeah, I say Craig and I met about 7 years ago. We at the time were going to a lot of the awards, receptions and the best in the company events, and we kind of rubbed elbows. He knew about me, I knew about him, but we really never broke bread together. And we kind of met and we hit it off. He's a hillbilly from the South, and I'm this kind of city slicker. And they're two peas from different pods, but kind of gelled together. He became a very good friend of mine. But we started to work on a lot of different things, and my team was probably only the second visitor that ever gone to his new location. And he and I were talking. I said, maybe it's probably a good idea to send people to your location to train, because sometimes you can, coach on calls with your team, and you can, evaluate and critique and all those other things. But sometimes, it can go on deaf ears. But if you heard it from a different person or somebody heard it from another, professional or individual, that tends to change their lens and their focus. And like, well, maybe Greg was onto something, because they heard it from Greg and they heard it from Craig, who's, was extremely successful. So that is kind of the way the genesis of the CWC, coaching and mentoring started inside of, his training platform over there in Huntsville. So that was the genesis of where it all took place. And ever since then, I mean, the growth has been phenomenal. And the amount of people that we have coached and trained, over the years is incredible. We've touched a lot of agency owners out there, inside of our insurance vertical.
And I've learned so much from you guys as far as selling just products in general. Like, at first, I always thought sales looked like it was frowned upon, per se. That's how I always had a look on it up until I was, like 18, 19 per se. And now, since I'm 25 and I've actually learned from someone that is a professional, as far as selling, it's like now I feel like there's an actual value to a product. And instead of selling, hey, my product is cheaper than someone else's, it's like now I have an actual process of selling. So do you mind getting into your guys' sell process and what makes you guys stand out from other agencies? Because I know it's kind of a combined answer.
Yeah, Ken, I think that's a really good question. You have to remember that everybody is born a salesperson. I hear sometimes from people, I don't like to sell. It's too much pressure. I don't want to have a quota. But if you think about it, at the very antithesis of what you do, when you're in the dating pool, you're selling yourself to a potential partner, right? When you're going to apply for a job, you're selling yourself to that potential employer.
That's the commission.
Everything that you do in your life involves sales. And the most successful people have been in sales, right? Because they have to maybe, pitch their product to an investor, or they have to pitch their invention to somebody that's going to fund them from a hedge fund, like a hedge fund department, like a Shark Tank. So everything that you do has to be involved in sales. So, I think that's kind of a cop out when people say, well, I'm not designed for sales and, sales isn't for me. Well, it really, really is. You just have to be coached. And not everybody, out there knows the skill set to be able to, to sell. Now, do we definitely separate sales and service in our agency? Like a lot of businesses, of course. You've got a mortgage lender out there that's out there meeting with real estate agents and trying to be able to grow his business, but he's got a processor that handles the heavy lifting from a paperwork perspective. So that's why you've got a processor in the mortgage business and you've got a loan officer, because they're two different personalities, both trying to achieve the same goal. One just happens to be better at selling to the public, while the other one might be being an internal champion and sell themselves in different ways, which is their skill set. So to also talk about how we add value and what we do to differentiate ourselves from the competition, it's pretty simple, right? We're the captive brand. We understand that, we're not the least expensive, but, like Joseph says all the time, I don't want to be the least expensive. I tell my guys all the time, when's the last time you saw a commercial for Ferrari or Lamborghini? You never have, right? You'll never see, right? Because that brand sells itself. And people will pay more for quality service, better coverage, right? And also the thing that you offer to your local sphere of influence, which is advice, right? Most people have, 4 people on their bench. They've got their attorney, they've got their doctor, right? They've got maybe a rabbi or a priest, right? And then they also have a coach. So most people have, those people in their tool chest to be able to learn from. And that's what, you need to have as it relates to, your insurance experience as an entrepreneur. And don't ever be afraid about selling with anybody else's pocket, because you hear all the time about these sales guys on car lots where they see a guy in flip-flops and ripped jeans and they don't even say hi to him, but that guy turns out and goes to another dealership and buys a BMW for cash. We hear those things all the time. So never sell with anybody else's pocket. Always make sure that you know what your value is, and people will pay more for better quality service.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second. Okay, this is a curveball. If me and you were role playing, all right, and I said, Greg, you're just $75 more per month, what would you say?
Ken, I can understand where you're coming from. Other than price, what's important to you in an insurance carrier?
Just make sure that my stuff is getting taken care of.
When's the last time you heard from your agent?
Probably back when I bought my car, let's say 5 years ago.
What's the name of your agent? See what I'm saying? So
great point.
You're peeling back the onion slowly to ask those open-ended questions that are going to elicit a response. I already know the answer to the question that I'm asking you because I've done it so many times. So what you need to do is go into a value sales approach and be a consultant and advisor instead of a transactional salesperson.
Good deal. Hey, I'm sold. All right.
Remember to get the policy started today.
Right. Give it my digits.
Good stuff.
Now, obviously, Allstate has a very niche market. How are you able to market towards that market?
Yeah, it's no secret. Allstate's very specific on who they bring on, and there's there's a lot of reasons why, right? We understand that the customers that fit into the Allstate segment tend to be, very financially responsible. They have less accidents and usually less issues. It doesn't mean they're not going to get into an accident, but they serve a specific market, right? And without getting into what some of the independents do, they all have a certain niche that they actually work in. We understand non-standard and then surplus and those excess policies. But I think the brand recognition is probably one of the most important things that you kind of have inside the business, right? The way that we sell is very organic, right? I have like I said, I have a sales background. Prior to this business, I had, real estate business with my partner. We had 7 offices, and all that business in real estate was very difficult. You had to be a people person, and it's a very heavy referral based business. So a really good percent. In fact, our second leading line of business inside of our agency comes from current customers and referrals. And how do you do that, right? So number one, you have to be extroverted. You have to be not afraid to go up and have conversations with people that are complete strangers. But you also have to understand people need to know who you are and what you do, right? So LinkedIn, social media, all my team all have profiles all over the place. And what I tell them is every contact in your iPhone, you take out your iPhone, I can guarantee you there's probably at least 200 people in your contacts, right? Everybody in your contact list needs to know who you are and what you do. And once you master that art of becoming that person, you're the go-to person, all that referral base is always constantly come in. If you're going to go out and look for a referral, let's say for a plumber or somebody that's going to do construction, are you going to Google it, or are you going to go to Facebook and ask for a recommendation, right?
Probably ask a friend.
Yeah, you can ask a friend, right? Because those referrals you trust. So you have to be omnipresent of all the different ways you can actually have traffic that's coming into your agency. And it takes minimal effort. Look, I'm not asking these guys to go out and make 200 cold calls, or like in the old days, door knock. Those days are over. But you have to have a presence and be that subject matter expert. So when somebody says, man, my car insurance went up by 30%, does anybody know an agent? They got the first person they need to think of, is the Gregg Blanchard Insurance Agency.
Awesome. So obviously networking in insurance is a high priority, and I don't understand why some people don't do it, but there's a lot of deals out there from real estate agents, loan officers, customer referrals, things like that.
Yeah.
How do you leverage your professional network and also how do you build, what strategies do you have? I'm going to use the word omnipresent. How do you stay omnipresent with those partners, and how are you building those partners?
Again, it's another great question. And to back up, the reason why most people don't do it is because they're lazy, right? At the end of it, they're lazy. I can't tell you how many people I've coached over the years that I can give them the blueprint and tell them all the secrets, right, that we do. It's just hard work, right? There's no excuse. It's discipline. It's about making sure you're in front of the loan officer and making sure you're going over to a Keller Williams office and you're educating, those bluebirds that are those are the people that are going to be giving you all those leads. You have to make sure that their vocabulary and their library and their understanding of what goes on in the insurance world, is pretty good. Because if they have to answer an intelligent question about, an insurance policy, could you imagine if a customer they're showing or they're showing a prospective, $900,000 house to, that they're going to make $27,000 in commission, and they say, hey, listen, I don't know anything about insurance. Do I need a flood policy? Could you imagine if the real estate agent said, you know what, we're actually not located in a floodplain. However, flood is responsible for more losses than any other loss in the state of Florida. In fact, the average, loss for a flood loss is $43,000. I'm going to put you in touch with Gregg's office because he's going to get a flood policy with your homeowner's insurance. Here's his card, right? Now, of course, we have to follow RESPA and you have to give out 3 names, but you understand what the sales pitch is, right? So if you can go out there and plant those seeds with all these real estate agents that are out there, those are referral sources for you. Go out there and educate. Go out there and support what they're doing. If they're doing, a mailer to their farm area, offset their expenses by maybe co-opting half of their mail piece. You're going to be located on the mail piece itself as a trusted advisor or somebody that's out there and, the insurance go-to person. But the idea behind helping them is to offset their expenses and be seen as part of their superpower team. And that's the important, crucial thing that a lot of people don't do is they're not in front of those real estate partners, consistently. And that's the biggest heavy lift that you have to do is to make sure you're always in front of those guys, going to bowling events, building, some charitable causes together, like Habitat for Humanity, all those things that you're doing involving in the community. Those are things that are going to be able to give you, that referral source that you want that's going to constantly feed you and you don't have to pay anything for it.
Good deal. So the next question, as your business expanded, what changes did you do to your marketing and your sales strategies?
Well, number one is I had to hire more salespeople, right? I mean, the only way that my sales manager, after he came on board, I gave him a lot of responsibility is he can't sell, right? If you have a sales manager out there that's running a 2 or 3 or 4 or 7-man sales team, that individual can't sell and manage at the same time. It's just much too difficult. That individual has to coach, he has to train, he has to make sure that the activity is there, and he also has to be able to pull people to the side and have a very hard conversation when they're not producing. So building the sales team is the best way to accelerate your long-term objective. But you also understand that coaching and role playing is crucial to the development of your team. You have to have both together. You can't have one without the other. So I would say that my marketing strategy has changed in the fact that I actually added, more feet on the street. What I mean by that is more salespeople, and I've gave more responsibility, to other people in the team and took it off of my manager so he can focus on team development. Because if he's not listening to calls or he's not coaching the team, it's like, I don't know, Tom Brady going out and winning, a game on Sunday and playing, the Miami Dolphins the week after and not watching tape, right? He's not going to do that. Everybody has got to practice. Tiger Woods, Kobe, they all practiced to the point where they're so disciplined, it's just part of their routine. So those are the keys to be able to, not only build your team, but then when you work on your marketing strategies, you have to diversify what you do. When I first came into the business 17 years ago, we had Agent Insider. That was the only game in town for internet leads, right? And it was a very exclusive deal. I think I paid, $2 for an internet lead back then. Technology changes. The way that we market changed. We have artificial intelligence, right? We've got streaming on social media. You've got direct mail. So you have to find out in your marketplace, number one, what your KPIs are, to find out how you're going to get the best return for your dollar, and making sure that when you're on the phone with prospects and the sales strategy is to be able to close business, you have to ask for the sale, number one, on the phone. And number two, you have to pick up all the lines in the household, because bundling is more important now than it's ever been before, because the cost of acquisition is so expensive. The more lines of insurance you can have in the house, the better off for the customer, the better off for the agent, and the better off for the carrier.
Absolutely. So a couple things that I want to dive into that are not on the question list is when you do have to pull someone aside because their production and or activity is not where you want it to, how do you address that? And also, how do you do it professionally so that the agent that you are talking to is not like, man, I suck. Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So how do you go about doing that in a professional manner?
Yeah, I think out of the gate, and this is what we do, we are very clear during the hiring process what your activity needs to be. We're very clear on what your goals and milestones are. And, so a really good friend of mine, Mark Mercer, who's another really successful agent, you try to, sell away from the position, right? You don't want to be out there during the interview process trying to sell them on why they should come to you. You want to be in the position that every seat that we have in the agency is worth $100,000, right? If you're taking up that seat, you have to be able to produce. It's nothing personal. It's strictly business. So that's why the expectations of activity and what is to be required is done right from the get. We will give you every resource, any tool, technology, marketing. The phones will ring off the hook. But I can teach you how to sell, but I can't teach you the discipline and the grind. That has to come with the territory. So those one-on-one opportunities come from the sales manager. And Nick sits down, with the team, and he presents all the data. This is your call activity. This is how long you've been on the phone. This is how many sales you've closed. This is the historical data compared to your peers. So that alone in the reporting, it's really, really clear. You have to be able to have that data and have a mature conversation, right? We're not babysitting here. We have a business to run. So we always tell people, when you come and join the agency, I want you to die in the chair, but I'll never fire you. You'll fire yourself, right? Due to lack of production.
There you go. That's well said, is what that is. That's well said. We won't fire you. You will fire yourself just because of lack of production, lack of activity. I really do like that saying.
It's a nice little nugget for you, Ken.
Okay. So my next question is, obviously, I feel like we are coming out of the worst time for insurance, for people to open up agencies, things like that. Like, I see things kind of settling down in the next 12 months. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? How have you navigated, let's say, 2020 to 2023 and still been able to grow your business?
Well, I tell my team, let's keep the main thing, right? We're still in the business of providing protection for families. That by far is the most important part of what we do, right? Life insurance is the most important product that we sell, but it's the least sold. Why is that? It's because of our mindset. So we have to remember that, unfortunately, everybody's going to pass away. So they have to have a life insurance policy if they want to take care of their parents. I mean, if they want to take care of their loved ones, right? Somebody needs to be in a home, either if they're going to rent or buy it. So they need to have insurance if you have a mortgage. Obviously, by state law, you have to have, an automobile insurance policy to be able to protect the auto that you have a loan on. So all these different aspects of the business, in my opinion, is for the long term, right? You can't be short-sighted as it relates to insurance, but out of the almost 17 years that I've been in the business, I've never seen the amount of transition and fluctuation that we've seen from pricing, overhead, rates, actually, some of the states being shut down for new business. It was a chaotic movement that took place. But I think the one thing about, our business is it's recession proof. And during the pandemic, we actually had a tick in production. Well, why is that? Well, everybody was looking to shop rates at their house because there's nothing else to do during the pandemic, right? Well, let's pull out all my policies. So it was a very, easy transition for us. Everybody worked remote and technology enabled that, but that actually changed the course in the way that we do business. And I think it affected businesses across the country in all different aspects of business just in general. I don't care if you ran a tax, consulting company or financial advisor. Once everybody had the convenience of working from home, we saw an increase in production because I had people that working, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, responding to emails. Not to say that you always have to be working, but just the accessibility just made people a lot more efficient.
Awesome. Now, how are you building a personal brand? And okay, let me preface this first. Is social media one of your biggest referral sources, such as, hey, you heard me off of Facebook, hey, you saw one of my posts, or hey, I'm friends with you on Facebook?
So, I've been on, All States Advisory Council for 6 years. I speak at a lot of different events, but I make sure I insert myself into those situations because number one of my main goals to be as a coach with CWC and all the things that I do to represent, the agency force on the councils that I am is to make sure that agents that are coming up that are new have the benefit of learning from the wisdom that I have. And, we live in Florida, which is a growth state, just like Texas, and everybody was leaving California for Texas. And obviously, because we're on the East Coast, we get snowbirds. It's a very seasonal business in Florida. So Michigan, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, everybody has second and third homes in Florida. Everybody wants to be in the sunshine. So it's a national migration state for us. So we always capitalize on that. I've got agency owners that literally know me in all 50 states. And every single day without hesitation, somebody's referring a customer over to our agency for a second home or a condo, or they're going to move one car down there and they need auto insurance coverage. So, I've always been top of mind, and, we always, send a thank you card to the agent that sent us information when I see these people at workshops, and we get together at these fantastic awards recognition events that we're at. We have conversations, we break bread. But I think the one thing that has always helped me is I'm willing to help, anybody that always needs help. I had a gentleman today that was asking me if I could help him with creating videos inside of our CRM to be able to talk to customers about policy reviews and a happy birthday video. So, to answer your question, social media has been a big part of our growth trajectory. I could always do more, but, we have been growing exponentially. And because I'm wearing a lot of different hats, I'm not as omnipresent as I should be with social media. But right now, I have to keep the main thing. We've grown to the Carolinas and Georgia now, so we're expanding our footprint. So I've got a lot of responsibility, but I still try to, come on like this platform and a lot of different, mediums to be able to, help out and answer questions when I can, or if somebody's, looking for assistance because they're just starting and they're struggling with, internet leads or marketing or hiring.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. So you have what, 3 or 4 locations you were saying?
We physically have 3 locations physically. Like I said, we just opened up in the Carolinas, and that footprint's going to grow exponentially. We expect a lot of great things in the Carolinas. That's a growth market. Georgia's having a little bit of difficult time right now from a rate perspective, but it's going to come back. You just have to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. And when your specific carrier is chasing a certain product or product line, chase it, because if they're gonna want to grow in that area, follow the money, right? Because that's going to give you the most explosive growth, and it's going to reward you handsomely.
And how do you know when Allstate is wanting to chase a certain market? Like, are they just advertising? Hey, like, are they telling agents like yourself, hey, we're taking, a rate decrease in this specific market, or something along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, Allstate does have some proprietary information that says, hey, we're going to chase, these states for a particular reason. Most of the time it's because of profitability. A lot of the states that, had some difficulty this year, and I think this is the same for a lot of carriers, was California was a very, very difficult time in California. New York, New Jersey had some challenges too, but they couldn't get rate adequacy. And that data comes from all the actuarial data that we have. Luckily, Allstate sees a lot of changes, in their data way, way before some of the other carriers. So I'm glad that we represent a company that's got the foresight and the analytics behind it to be able to make a right turn and make it really, really quickly. Because generally what happens is we make that turn. There's a lot of customers that get pretty upset, but we have to make those turns in order for us to stay, profitable and grow. And it's like pulling off the Band-Aid. You just got to do it. And then we'll have some percolation inside the business for 6 to 8 months. And then before you know it, you're going to see other carriers to kind of do the same thing. And by that time, we're kind of rebounding and we're in a competitive position. So, we got a lot of intelligent data and some really smart individuals, smarter than I am, that says, hey, we're going to go this way. And, follow the market trends, look at some of your line leaders across the country and those growth states that are growing. And that'll give you an indicator of kind of what the marketplace looks like, because every cash flow market is different.
Now, I don't know why I didn't do this, but I don't have any CWC questions on here. I should have, and shame on me for not doing that.
How many tattoos does Joseph have? Oh, yeah.
So obviously, Craig Wiggins has been a pretty good mentor for you. What are like 3 things that you have learned from Craig that has greatly impacted your business?
I think the first thing is patience. I tend to be a very excited type of individual. Sometimes, he's the polar opposite of me, just like my business partner and my brother. They're not the most extroverted, people, but it's that book, Rocket Fuel. If your listeners haven't read that book, Rocket Fuel is a fantastic book that gives you an idea of what partnerships look like, right? So think about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, right? One was the visionary, and then the other was the integrator. One guy wanted to be in the limelight. The other one did the operational side and built the computer. So I think patience is a really good quality that Craig has that has enabled me to make really, really smart decisions. The second thing that I think Craig actually instilled in me is just always do the right thing, right? Always be on a good moral compass, never take any shortcuts, always take, the high road. I think that's something that I've always had, but he reinforced it, with me on a lot of different aspects. Sometimes people will, try to wreck, your business unbeknownst to you, and there's a cancer in there. So that's another thing I've learned from him is, if there's a cancer inside your agency, you gotta cut them out immediately. You have to be, slow to hire and quick to fire, because those types of things can eat your business inside out. So I think, patience, the moral compass, and, being able to recognize when somebody is doing damage to your business, and be very quick with your decision-making ability and trust your gut.
Now, for everyone out there that is wanting to get into sales or that is wanting to start a business, talk to them about how important having a process in place for hiring your sales, just X, Y, and Z. How important is it to have a process in place for those activities?
I mean, if you think about it, besides your purchase of your home, right? Starting a business is probably the most expensive thing that you're going to take on in your life. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of people out there that will tell me, Greg, I want to start this business. I'm afraid. Well, we can overcome the fear, but there's just some people that are not cut out to be entrepreneurs and run a business because they don't want the responsibility with payroll, human resources. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to go out there and say, I'm going to put out all this money and hopefully I'll turn a profit. And that profit might not come for 24 months. So I think, you have to have a playbook before you go into a business and know everything that you possibly can, whether you're buying, a McDonald's franchise, you're getting into, a software development company. You've got to have the playbook to be able to study so you know what you're doing, right? I will tell you that I am an anomaly. When I first started as an agent in Scratch in 2007, I had 19 people that were in my graduating class. There is not a single individual that's still with the company today, right? And that washout rate is kind of common. And that's super, super unfortunate. So that means that we're failing more times than we're being successful. So my mission and some of the things that Craig and I had talked to over the years was, let's get a hold of these agents early on, as soon as they come out of training, and put them and insert them into the platform so they have a playbook that's designed to be able to work from. All you have to do is rinse and repeat, right? Copy this, do that. Some of the things are going to vary, by market, but you have to be able to follow a game plan. It's like telling somebody, hey, you need to go open up a Chick-fil-A, but guess what? We're going to keep the recipe from you, right? Like, could you imagine doing that? I mean, think about that. Like, I'm going to be able to run a chicken business, but I don't have the recipe. It's the same thing. Everything has to be scripted. You have to have a game plan. You have to have a cash flow. You have to know what your budget is. All those things are going to produce, success. But there's no guarantee to success. You got to take your lumps around the way, and you have to be able to open your mouth and ask for help when you need it.
Now you say, okay, so how many people were in your graduating class?
I had 19 potential agency owners that were in my class.
So only 5% have survived, which would be you.
That's right.
I
started Scratch. So did start Scratch is even more difficult.
Yeah.
Inside the business. Most of the time, excuse me, if I had to do it again, I would probably have made an acquisition. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know any better, and I didn't have the financial means back in those days.
And that's so incredible that you started from literally zero, and now you've turned it into 42 million. I mean, seriously, that's incredible. Shoot, and I forgot what my next question was going to be. It wasn't written down.
It'll come back to you, but
it will.
While you're thinking, I will tell you something about the insurance business that I learned. A lot of the insurance business is generational business, right? There's a lot of agency owners out there where their father was an agent, their grandfather was an agent. So there's something to be said about the staying power of a business. And I used to see it up when I lived up north for a couple of years. A plumbing business, like a construction business. Those are all generational businesses that can give a young person kind of an advantage or a slingshot effect over somebody who's starting out new, because the business is there. Yeah, maybe things have changed over time, technology, how you do the books, those types of things have changed, but there's already a brand that's built for you, right? So Allstate has got the brand that's done. Most of the people, when you ask, what's the first thing that you think about when you mention the word Allstate? Safety, protection. Blue, that's kind of a safety color. It's not
good hands,
but it's blue, right? And that makes you feel like you're being protected. And so Allstate's done half of the heavy lifting for you. So those are just some of the things you need to think about, when you get to entrepreneurship, and whatever brand you represent.
The question came back to me.
I knew it.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. So you're the only one left out of 19 people. What do you think makes you different that the other 19 people didn't, or other 18 people didn't do? Like, what makes you different, and why makes you successful instead of the other people?
I think a couple things. I think I had a base to work from, right? I've always been in sales, but my ability to bring people into my circle of trust, I've always had that natural God-given ability, right? I'm an entrepreneur. If, we were sitting in, a Subway and there were 7 people there, I'd be the first one to be able to come up and say, hey, so what do you do for a living, right? I mean, that's just how I am. And if you've ever taken the DISC profile, I'm a high I. That's just how we are. Most of us are like that. It means we're really, really emotional. We can go out there and talk to anybody, sometimes lower compliant, right? Because sometimes we get to be a little bit sideways, but that's just, the typical sales mentality. I think also what had helped me along the way was my mom had worked for State Farm for 28 years. She had worked in the claims, department. So I had some history and knowledge about the insurance business. So I understood, how it operated, but the power of residual income, there's nothing like it. So residual income and to get paid, on a lifetime value of a customer over, let's say 7 years, I mean, that's like compound interest. So I knew that I focused on that business because of what the financial output would be. So I think, being an extroverted individual, I've also had run, multiple businesses in the past. So I was experienced. It's not like I was cutting my teeth and I was right out of high school. And then I went to college and I said, guess what? I'm going to start an insurance agency. Most people that are agency owners now were probably an LSP at an agent one time, because it's almost like you're cultivating those people inside. It's like a manager trainer, like they're training to become a manager inside your agency. And most of the time, the more successful agents that make it after 2 years is because they used to work in an agency.
So one question, this is a question that I'm asking for you to answer for me. And if anyone else is out there in the same exact situation, it will benefit them.
Sure.
So, I am the agency manager right now. Okay. In the future, I don't know if I want to go off and do something on my own. I don't know, because I feel like I have a really good thing going here. So what pros and cons are there to staying where you're at right now? Which again, if I stay where I'm at for the next 30 years, I'm perfectly happy. And if I go off and go do my own thing, I'd be perfectly happy, because I do have that gene in me that's I'm never content. I always want to go after for so much more. I'm never satisfied. I know the potential is through the roof. Like, you're currently at 42 million. I see the potential, like you can go to 100 million. You can go to 200 million. The potential's there. So it's all about the numbers and how can you get there. But going back to the question, what advice would you have for someone that is, considering going off on their own or staying where they're at? What are kind of like the pros and cons, and what would you do?
I think you have to identify firstly, what's your why? And your why is going to be different, right? Just like, people in my service department, they don't care about gift cards. They care about time off. It's completely counterintuitive to what you think, right? They would much rather have a day off than to get a $50 Visa gift card. Whereas my guys that are on the sales team, which I call my hunters, if you throw a $100 bill at them, they're beating each other up for it, right? So everybody's purpose and their why and their dash is different. And you have to be able to understand what your why is, right? My why is I have 6 kids. I got a grandkid on the way. So my purpose and my why is to be able to provide financial independence. So at 72 years old, I'm not working at Publix pushing a shopping cart. No offense to those old timers, but you get what I'm saying, right? So I want to be able to spend more time at home with my kids and my grandkids and travel and do all the things with my wife that I'd like to do, because she loves to travel and she loves country music and she loves going to concerts. So in order for me to be able to do that, I have to make X amount of dollars to be able to pay all my managers and all the operational people that run this business. So this business could function for 6 months without me, right? So you have to figure out what your why is. There are some people, my son's grandfather worked at Pratt & Whitney for 42 years, right? Because that's the generation he's from. You got up at 5, you were at work at 6, you left at 4:30, you come home and have dinner, you played golf, and that was his jam. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, in fact, there's more people that are like that that are people that understand what their why is and really feel that push. The universe is going to push you to say, all right, opportunity is knocking. You have to be able to recognize when that opportunity is knocking and actually jump on it, right? So again, I think you have to identify what is your why. Once you figure that out, you're going to know what direction to go.
That's awesome. Seriously, because like part of me has that, hey, if I do go out and go do my own thing, I know for a fact I'm not going to fail because I have that drive inside of me. I do. I seriously, I have that drive, and a lot of people can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
They have that drive that once you have your mind focused on it's the shutters. That's the only thing that you're focused on. Like you go home, you're thinking about it. And it's that thing that keeps you up at night. And I truly believe that if there is something that is keeping you up at night and it is a goal of yours, it is a dream, to chase it 100%. You need to chase it and you can't let that go. And that's a true belief of mine. Absolutely.
You have to hire a coach or hire a mentor. You have to find a mentor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so going back on to the scripted questions.
Yeah.
So balancing short-term goals versus long-term goals is definitely crucial. How do you prioritize goals to achieve both immediate success and also sustainable long-term growth?
Well, every single day, every day without hesitation, I've got a remarkable here. Every day I've got a to-do list, right? So my short-term goals are always written on my to-do list. In January, we created, and we do this every year since 1996. I've done vision boarding. It is probably the most important subconscious influence that I have in my life, right? If you take a look at the book that I had from Anthony Robbins from an infomercial from almost it's 26 years now. Everything that I wrote down in my book, I've achieved, from the real estate investments, to the children that I have, to the materials things that I bought, to the charitable contributions that I've done. All those things I've accomplished. So what's next, right? You have to go back to square one and understand, okay, you only got so many hours in the day. And the one thing you can't buy is you can't buy more time, right? So you need to maximize right now what you're willing to do and accomplish to sacrifice. So in the future, you're going to be able to reap those rewards. So you need to identify, kind of like the book, the 12-week year. You have to break up your year into 12 different weeks, right? Figure out, okay, this is what I want to do in the first quarter. These are the objectives that I want to achieve. How am I going to get there? And what's going to happen, the altercations, if I don't reach that goal? How's that going to make me feel? So all that internal motivation has to come and be written down, because subconsciously, as you write your goals down, you're going to move towards those goals. You're going to move towards those priorities, right? And focus on the one, like they say, eat the frog. You have to swallow that most important priority first, because you know why? The things that come after that are going to be so much easier than the big frog you have to eat. So prioritization, set up a plan, make sure that you're reviewing your goals on a daily basis. I do. As you write down your goals, check them off. The greatest satisfaction I get at 5:30, 6 o'clock when I go home for the day is on my remarkable, I just remove the things that I've accomplished because they're off my list. But what happens the next day? I fill that funnel with something else, right? But that constantly puts me in a state of growth.
There you go. That's awesome. So that's some stuff that I need to work on is doing stuff like that. Question about real estate investing, if that's okay. At what point did you start investing in real estate? And was there a particular time where you're like, well, my income is at a certain point, I want to invest that into something else? Is that kind of how it went, and how that kind of thought process in your head go?
Yeah, I think for me, the real estate side came out of necessity, right? I had to get into a situation where I had, a couple, residential properties, and then I've got some land up in Gainesville with my father. And then I just invested in a pickleball company, right? Because pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. And that's kind of a long-term play. I think that once you understand that the cash flow that you throw off starts to pay for, some of your basic living necessities, everything is all about the cash flow, mailbox money, they say. So building a diversification inside what you do is a really, really good idea. God isn't going to build any more land, right? So it's like, real estate historically is always going to appreciate. And if it doesn't, somebody will come back and develop it into something like a mall or a building or a storage facility. So, long term, that buy and hold option for real estate is kind of a necessity. And, I think this should always be impactful for, young people that are learning about investing. And if we take a look at anybody that's successful in business, anybody, I don't care who it is, Elon Musk or some business professional that owns the grocery store, everybody has real estate in their portfolio. Why? Because it's something that, generally appreciates. And number two, it's a hard asset. So focus on, assets, not liabilities.
So kind of, okay. So follow-up question. What would you tell someone that has all of the information necessary to do real estate investing, and how would you tell them, like, hey, like, this is something that you do need to do? For an example, like myself, I have all kinds of information regarding real estate investing. I've talked to a whole lot of wholesalers, fix and flippers. Like, the amount of information that I have, you'd think that I'd probably have already done 2 or 3 of them, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. So for other people out there that are, not willing to pull the trigger, what would you tell them to get started into real estate investing? And then side question, what kind of real estate are you invested in, if you're comfortable sharing that?
I would say get your hands dirty, right? Work with a real estate agent that specializes. I'm not a flipper. I'm not into that, but I have several friends of mine that's kind of their main, income stream. So I would say get your hands dirty. If you just go ahead and ask somebody, hey, would you mind if I did a ride along with you today? You'll get so much knowledge from those individuals and how to get started. Also, there's a lot of different groups, like a mastermind group, that you actually can pay to go and take a course on, and then identify the person that's taking a lot of notes there or speaking from experience, and go up and introduce yourself to them. Hey, my name is Ken. I'm new to the business. Is there a date or a time that I could come and ride with you or visit you in the office? Because I'm really interested in, and could you mentor me? Because people are willing to help you, but most people don't even ask, right? Right. It's like whenever I travel, it drives my wife nuts all the time. I'm asking for a discount. If we go to the hotel, I'm asking for an upgrade. But because God gave you one mouth and 2 ears, right? So you're going to do more listening than you are going to talk. But if you don't ask those questions, people aren't going to be able to help you. So what's the worst they can say? No. Next. Right? It's next. So I play pickleball all the time at my gym. I've probably written half the people I play pickleball with insurance because they know who I am and what I do.
There you
go. Everybody is always talking about insurance because it's the number one thing that's going up from a rate perspective. Everybody's always having a rate increase or whatever the case may be. So it's good to be that person. And you would be surprised. Like, we have a very affluent gym by us. It's called Lifetime. The people that can afford a $250 gym membership, they got some change and they've got some idea of how to make money, right?
Is that $250 per month?
Yep. Go flock where those people are, and they're nice people. They're not rich snobs that think they're more than not. A lot of these people are very willing to share. I talk to a guy all the time. He always comes up to me, hey, Blanchard, when are you gonna write my cars? The guy's got like 30. He's got a car collection of 36 cars, and I say to him, I said, Steve, you need to send me your deck pages, right? So we go through this all the time, but there are people that are successful in all access of business. And if you just simply find out what you're interested in and ask somebody who's in that vertical to help you, people will help you. Mm-hmm. They might not be the first one or the third, but that seventh one might be the golden nugget that said, you know what, I'm here to help. I want to pay it forward. I want to invest in you, because they might see it's something inside of you that they saw in them when they were younger. And more often than not, people are willing to help you.
So this is the 2 final questions for you. One, I've heard you mention a lot of books. So how important is reading towards your success? And then secondly, in 20 years, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself still actively in the business? Do you see yourself kind of taking yourself out and spending more time with family, especially with grandkids?
Yeah, so I think that you have to be a student of the game, and acquiring knowledge and reading and absorbing the things that you're interested in is the most important learning objective. You could sit all day after you're watching Sunday Night Football and having a burger and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But what are you actually taking out of it, right? Probably one of the best inventions of the 21st century is Audible. You can go through an entire book probably in 4 days and you won't fall asleep. And some of the books now have authors at the end of each chapter will chime in and actually summarize. David Goggins happens to be my favorite, but they will summarize the first chapter. So that is a different aspect to reading. It's unlike anything we've had before, and it makes it interesting and fun. And some of the things that you absorb will resonate with you that you can actually go back and listen to again instead of trying to find the page and read through it. Whereas you can actually mark down the time that short was actually whatever that particular topic was, maybe by coaching or inspiration or strategy. And I think you need to do it. I do a book a month, an Audible. Every single month I do a book a month.
There you go. And then the next question about where do you see yourself in the next 20 years?
Yeah, I've got a son in the business. My middle boy son, Chase, he's been in the business for about a year and a half. I'm hoping, and I think that we're on the right trajectory, that he will kind of step in and take over the business. I've got my hands in a lot of different things. I don't think I could ever stop working, but because I'd probably be bored to death. But I'm always looking for opportunities and signs that maybe I should go in this direction or that direction, or put people together that will make deals happen or make introductions. So I think that I'll definitely spend a lot of time, away from the agency. I'll be 55 in June, so I'm not, a young duckling at all.
Oh, come on. You're very young. I'm
Yeah.
telling you that. Listen, you and my dad are pretty much the same age. I think he has a couple more years on you. But
Yeah.
dude, like if you started something right now, if you started a new venture right now, you still have plenty of time to grow that thing and see it to wherever it's going to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, listen, most people I meet have when I tell them I'm almost 55 and I've got a grandkid, they have to show them my driver's license. They don't believe it.
Let me tell you, you definitely don't look 55. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So
it's that pickleball.
Yeah, man, I pickleball and taking care of yourself, and I've got an amazing family. I got a loving wife that feeds me well. So we're really blessed. We've got the health of our kids, and we've got great family, and our job is to make sure that we pay it forward and we help others around us. At the end of the day, treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and that philosophy is has really served me well. So, I think I'm in the third quarter of my lifespan, and everybody's got a certain amount of time, and we have to squeeze that orange juice and flavor and just relish every drop that comes out of it. At the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, Gregg, I really do appreciate your time and coming on here. You have impacted so many people's lives, and also mine included in that, and people that you don't even know. How cool is that? Like people's lives are being impacted that you will never talk to, but they're being impacted for the better. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, just find me on Facebook and tell me how you like the podcast. You're doing a great job, Ken.
Where can people, because obviously you do the Gregg Wiggins coaching, where can people find your information so that way they can dive into more of your information? And if they want to be coached by you from CWC, where can they find you?
Yeah, if you'd like to bring me on and hire me as a coach, we do one-time visits. You can actually fly into the office here. We do coaching, or if you'd like to do a Zoom, I'm always available for that. So you can send me an email to greg@greggwigginscoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Gregg Blanchard with 2 G's, and send me an invite request, and anything you need, private messenger, I'm always available.
And he's very quick at responding.
Yes, I am.
Yes. All righty. Well, seriously, thank you again. Your time really does mean a lot to me. There was a lot of valuable information here. And I'm very confident that some Kevin out in Utah is going to find this information to be very valuable. And hopefully that helps them scale their business. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much. And talk to you guys later.
Thanks for having me.